With the announcements of legacy automakers one after another paring back their investments and forecasts for electric vehicles, what will that do to Tesla's own goals of selling 20 million cars by 2030? What will happen to the EV share globally over the next few years, and how will this compare to gas car sales? So today we'll watch a video by CNBC where they have collected statements by CEOs of GM, Ford, and others, both their past bullish forecasts and now their recent pullbacks, and a statement by Elon Musk as to his expectations for EV share. So today we have Larry Goldberg joining us. He's a serial entrepreneur and he's a regular of the channel. Thank you so much, Larry. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Herbert.
So I know that you're traveling right now and you'll tell me a story about what you're observing here in North Carolina. But before we do that, let's watch this video. It's CNBC talking about what happened to all the legacy automakers, what they used to say, what they're now saying. So this is pretty fun. Let's watch this.
Vehicles, it may be harder than it looks.
We're going to be number one mid-decade in EVs in the U.S.
As we get further into the transformation to EV, it's a bit bumpy, which is not unexpected.
We're going to invest whatever it takes to drive our growth initiatives on battery electric vehicles and our connected vehicles.
Ford announced yesterday they are delaying $12 billion of planned EV spending indefinitely, potentially even raising the possibility of canceling it.
General Motors and Honda announcing that they will be co-developing lower-priced EVs.
Honda is planning to halt plans with GM to develop smaller electric vehicles. The report saying Honda CEO cites changes in the business environment for that decision.
Even Tesla, the pure-play EV king, it's getting hit.
Even a great ship in a storm has challenges.
So what happened? This week on Tech Check, electric vehicles in reverse. How the world's biggest automakers are scaling back their green ambitions. Electric vehicles were supposed to be the wave of the future.
President Biden announcing that he's going to be signing an executive order setting a pretty ambitious target of 50% of electric vehicles to be sold in the United States by the year 2030.
It's pretty clear that this transition is going to happen. This is where the world is going.
And automakers had big plans. General Motors setting a goal to sell EVs exclusively by 2035.
$27 billion will be invested by 2025, 30 new EVs by 2025, many of them in North America and here in the United States. They've got a long ways to go.
Ford announcing $30 billion in EV investments, targeting 40% electric car sales by 2030 in what they called their Ford Plus plan.
We're going to make the moves we need to make to drive this growth plan and continue to execute our Ford Plus plan.
And of course, Tesla. Elon Musk has for years been making bold predictions about the rise of EVs.
They're going to grow exponentially. So there's a big difference between 5 and 10 years. My guess is probably in 10 years, more than a half of new vehicle production is electric in the United States.
All right. So Larry, I wanted to get your opinion on that. So obviously lots of investments and real progress trying to make EVs a thing. Now they're pulling back a little bit, unfortunately. And then you see Elon Musk saying that this was that was filmed in 2017. He was asked 10 years or 7 years, which is it will be 2027. So by 2027, it will be 50% of all cars will be ICE vehicles. So given the pullbacks, what's your thinking has changed with these forecasts?
Look, nothing has changed. I mean, the so-called pullbacks are in EV cars that are really not EV cars. ICE car designs with EV propulsion built into them and somehow some batteries stuck into. I mean, if you look at Tesla's growth, it continues to grow at, double-digit numbers. They really only have two models. They have four models, but two models that are, for the mass market. We're living through a very, very big adjustment. We're living the result of the pandemic and the economic fallout from the pandemic. But if you look at actual EV growth, it's been very, very high. It's been consistent. In fact, I think that the next 3 years are going to be very significant in EV growth. Tesla are going through a very particular time, and that is they don't have their third generation EV car ready yet. And if one were to criticize Tesla at all, one would criticize them for just not having the number of models and the evolution of models and the introduction of models that some of the Chinese companies, particularly BYD, have had. And even Elon has spoken about this in the past, and he's rued the fact that he's unable to develop as many new vehicles as perhaps is necessary. The problems that the traditional manufacturers have, they're problems because the traditional manufacturers have not adopted an EV design, an EV first design. And, they're going to live with the consequences, and the consequences are very dire.
So you still believe that, EV adoption will grow, but there'll be enough suppliers. And so even though you've kind of discounted the legacy automakers from being able to create big numbers, which they haven't been able to anyways, and so you're still pretty. So the question is who, right? It's going to be Tesla, but Tesla's going to be just how much they can make, they'll sell. And then you think the Chinese automakers globally. Let me show this one chart. This is from Rocky Mountain Institute, a research firm. And they had shown this chart, which shows you when they think that EV sales will overtake ICE cars. And that's the crossover here, these crossover sections here. So right now, we're here. This is the actual EV actuals. In 2020, 1 in 25 cars were sold. But now, in 2023, we got 1 in 5 cars are sold in EVs. So that's where we're at now. And there's a potential for EV sales to follow this line or even this line. So this would be the kind of a bullish line. Then this is what will happen to ICE car sales. It'll fall. And so here we are right here. And you can already see that it's starting to fall. And they're projecting that it's going to bounce. Probably bullishly, it'll hit the 50% mark in 2026. It's crazy talk. But then the conservative line would be 2028. So even Rocky Mountain Institute thinks that the forecast will grow. So do you think that this line are still the same despite the announcements that many car companies aren't able to produce the electric vehicles that they once thought that they were?
Yeah, I don't place much credence in what the traditional automakers are announcing. I mean, all their announcements in the past have been bogus. The announcements today are bogus. I mean, what really tracks is the actual deliveries that are being made. And if you look at China, I mean, Tesla are killing it in China, and they're going to kill it in China. BYD are killing it in China, and they're going to kill it in China and in Europe. And so, we're going to see this crossover of the traditional automakers dying and the EV car makers, growing. And EV car makers means EV car makers that have designed EVs from the ground up. So, yeah, we're in a very difficult situation at the moment. We're coming out of a pandemic. Who knew about the pandemic? The pandemic has really roiled the waters, but to me, it's very clear what's going to happen. I think it's going to be a disaster for the traditional automakers. It's going to be a disaster for those traditional automakers that have stuffed EV technology into their existing vehicles and not gone back to the drawing board, started from first principles, designed an EV and built an EV. I think, if I were to criticize Tesla specifically, they've taken longer to produce the next gen model than they should have. And, there are a lot of reasons for that, and Elon has spoken about it. But I would like to see that next gen model move more rapidly. I think it's very important for the company, very important for the technology, very important for the world, very important for the United States. But apart from that, I don't see any slowdown in EV adoption.
I love it. Okay. That's very, very clear. I like that you're very clear in your thinking. And I do need to think globally. I think that's the key. So yes, maybe in the US, it might be slower to adopt, but look at this. Globally, 11.8% of all cars are now electric vehicles. And you can see the line going right up here.
Right.
That's amazing. That's close to 12% now. And so that's not going to stop. And like you said, there's many, many makers out there and the ones that will survive. So even though these ones have pared back, these won't. Okay.
And Herbert, when that number gets to the 25% mark, the traditional automakers are going to be going bankrupt. I mean, we see it happen in China. We see all the European car makers literally going out of business in China. And what are they doing? They're signing, surrender treaties with the China manufacturers. Surrender treaties. I mean, they're saying, oh, yeah, you take over my business. You take over, this one takes over my business. The other one takes over. We see it with Audi. We see it with VW. We see it with Stellantis. And they're giving up. Well, that's one thing when they start giving up in China. But it's coming to the point where they're going to start giving up in their home markets. That's very serious.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com. You're in North Carolina. You were just telling me a story. So why do you think, you tell me what you're experiencing in North Carolina. Tell the folks and let's discuss that bit.
Well, I'm in South Carolina. So I live in North Carolina in what is called this is the triangle. And in the triangle, we have, these three university, very high-tech communities, like the number 3 or number 4 high-tech community in the United States. So every second car you see is a Tesla. That's what we're used to. And, I was in LA and I was in San Francisco. But here I am, in Greenville, South Carolina. And every zero car is a Tesla because every car is a huge SUV or a huge truck. And that's all you see. Just around the corner, by the way, is the BMW factory. I mean, I'm sitting less than 2 miles from the BMW factory. And so, and at this event that I went to, there wasn't even a single BMW because they don't make, these gigantic SUVs. Well, they do make some, but I guess there were none there. And they don't make these huge trucks. So the Cybertrucks are going to be very important. But also the question is, competing for Middle America. And in Middle America, we have to really think about the vehicles. And Cybertruck in volume is very important. So the sooner we get to volume in the Cybertruck, it's very important. And then we have to think about, a large, full-size, what they call full-size SUV, a Tahoe or a, Tacoma-size SUV.
Yeah. Thank you for that. We'll have you go visit again after the Cybertruck is launched and tell me how many you see there. Thank you so much, Larry. Follow him on X at Tesla Larry. Appreciate you. Bye-bye.